When our mom died, nobody asked if I wanted to become a parent at 26. Nobody offered to take Lily. There was no long family meeting or official handoff. It was just me and her, and a funeral with no damn guests. Lily was 15, scared, shaky, grieving, and stubborn in that way teenagers are when the world falls apart, and they try not to cry about it. I signed the guardianship papers before I even cleaned out our mom's apartment. I didn't hesitate, not once, because deep down, I think I always knew this day would come. Our mom had Lily with my stepdad. Well, technically my half-sister's biological father, but I only ever called him Rick. And only ever with a deep breath first. He wasn't my dad. He wasn't even much of a dad to Lily, if we're being honest. He was the kind of man who would bounce in and out of her life like a drunk comet. Bright, loud, unpredictable, and then gone again. For years. When Mom passed, Rick didn't even show up. No flowers. No card. No phone call. Just static silence while I signed papers that made me a legal guardian to a grieving teen. I moved us into my place. I cut back on hours at the hospital. I started setting alarms to check homework and cook dinners. I helped Lily apply for art scholarships. I learned about charcoal shading and what sketchbooks not to buy. And slowly, she came back. Not all at once, and not completely, but I watched her grow into herself again. From nightmares to giggles. From flinching at every male voice to playing music while she painted. From refusing to talk about school to proudly handing me her report card. 2 years of quiet, consistent, boring healing. Until December. It started with a knock at the front door while I was cooking dinner. I opened it, expecting Amazon or maybe a neighbor. But there he was. Rick. Smiling like we were old friends. Like he hadn't ghosted his own daughter's funeral. He looked like a souvenir of someone I tried to forget, suntanned, a little heavier, wearing a Christmas sweater so obnoxiously cheery it hurt to look at. Jonah, he beamed, clapping a hand on my shoulder like it belonged there. You look good, man. Really good. You still doing that, nurse stuff? My jaw clenched so tight I felt it in my temples. What are you doing here? I asked flatly, blocking the doorway. Rick laughed, like I was just being dramatic. Come on. It's almost Christmas. I figured it was time Lily got to know her real parent. I didn't say anything. I didn't trust myself to speak. She's got siblings now, he went on. We're in Arizona. We've got a pool, a dog, the whole deal. I want her to come spend the holidays with us. It's time, Jonah. I stepped out and closed the door behind me so Lily wouldn't hear. She's not ready, I said calmly, even though my pulse was pounding. And you don't get to vanish for 2 years and show up playing Santa. He held up both hands, like I was overreacting. I'm just trying to connect with my daughter. No, I snapped. You're trying to borrow her for Christmas. There's a difference. Rick's smile flickered, just for a second, but it was there. I stepped back. We're not doing this. You can call, if she wants. But no, she's not flying to Arizona for some photo op family moment with a stranger. He didn't argue, didn't yell, just nodded once. Said, you'll be hearing from my lawyer. And left. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, counting the cracks in the drywall like they could offer advice. I wanted to believe he was bluffing. But Rick wasn't smart enough to bluff. He was impulsive, reckless. He didn't think things through. And worse, he didn't care who he hurt. 2 days later, I got a voicemail. Christmas is off, Rick hissed. You'll be hearing from my lawyer. We're not done here. I stared at my phone for a long time after that. I didn't tell Lily. I couldn't. She'd finally gotten to a place where she didn't wake up checking for new bruises or dread every birthday. She was painting again. She had friends. She trusted me. She was safe. And now the man who used to leave her alone for days with his sketchy girlfriend while he handled business wanted custody. For Christmas, I contacted my own attorney the next morning. I gathered everything I had. Text threads, child support gaps, photos our mom took of Lily's bruises from when she was 8, and left with some chain-smoking girlfriend who forgot to feed her. Hospital discharge paperwork. Therapist notes from years ago that proved she'd suffered abandonment and emotional neglect. I was ready. I had to be. A week later, the formal letter arrived from Rick's attorney. Mr. Callahan is seeking temporary holiday custody visitation. Jonah Callahan. That was his full name. I used to think it sounded strong, like a hero in a Western, but reading it on legal paper made me sick. My lawyer sent back a flat denial. No negotiation. No compromise. The attached evidence spoke for itself. I still didn't tell Lily. She was working on a huge portfolio piece, something she wanted to submit to a regional contest. A beautiful, abstract forest scene in ink and watercolor. When I asked about it, she just said, "It's the woods I used to imagine when things were bad. I pretend I could disappear into them." I swallowed my rage, my fear, my helplessness. I let her paint. I cooked dinner. I made sure the world stayed quiet. But then Christmas Eve came, and so did another voicemail. Only this time, Rick wasn't shouting. He was quiet, calm, and absolutely venomous. "You poisoned her against me," he whispered. "You stole my daughter. This isn't over." I saved it. Didn't respond. Didn't tell Lily. Just finished icing the cookies we'd baked together and turned up the volume on Home Alone. When she gave me my present the next morning, I nearly broke down. A hand-drawn portrait of the two of us, cartoon style, standing in front of our apartment door, holding mugs of cocoa. It was labeled, "My Real Family." I kissed her forehead and held it together just long enough to say thank you. I never played her the voicemail. Never said a word about custody papers or court threats. Because my dad said Christmas was off. But for Lily, it was finally on. I kept the voicemail. I even had it transcribed and notarized, per my lawyer's advice. But I didn't listen to it again. Once was enough. Rick's voice had this way of creeping under my skin. Not loud. Not angry. Just disappointed. Like I had done something wrong by protecting her. Like he actually believed I was the thief in this situation. Like Lily was his to reclaim, not a person who had bled for years under his absence. The next morning, I walked into work with a pit in my stomach. The ER was chaos. As usual, slippery driveways, drunk partygoers, some poor guy who sliced his hand carving a ham. The usual Christmas Eve disaster buffet. But even through the whirlwind of triage and trauma codes, I kept checking my phone. Every time it buzzed, my stomach lurched. What if he showed up? What if he did something stupid? By the time my shift ended, I was too tired to think. But the second I stepped outside into the freezing air, I saw the envelope tucked under my windshield wiper. No postage. No return address. Just my name. I stood there in the snow, heart pounding as I opened it. Inside was a single photo, printed on cheap paper. It was Lily, maybe 7 years old, standing next to Rick in some fast food parking lot. She was smiling, but her shirt was torn at the collar, and her knees were scraped raw. Scrawled in Sharpie underneath were the words, "You weren't there." I was. That night, I locked the doors twice. Lily didn't notice. She was working on a new drawing, humming along to Christmas music like any other teen would. I stared at her from the kitchen for a long time, wondering how someone could look at that girl, my girl, and see a possession to win back, not a person to protect. When I told my lawyer about the photo, she asked if I wanted to file a restraining order. I hesitated. Would that scare him off or provoke him? She gave me a long look and said, "With men like this, there's no safe bet, only paper trails." So we filed it. I didn't tell Lily. Again, I told her the locks were just old, that we were being cautious for the holidays. She rolled her eyes like any teenager would and asked if we could still go see the Christmas lights after dinner. We went, and for an hour, I let myself believe it was over, that the legal wall we'd built around her would hold, that Rick would get bored or distracted or crawl back to his new family in Arizona and pretend he hadn't left a flaming bag of chaos at our doorstep. But the next day, Christmas morning, there was a knock on the door. It was barely past 8 a.m. Lily was still asleep. I moved quietly to the peephole and felt my breath catch. It wasn't Rick. It was a woman, probably mid-30s. Short blonde hair, oversized sunglasses, a parka zipped to her chin. She looked nervous. I cracked the door. "Can I help you?" She pulled off her glasses and glanced behind her before speaking. "You're Jonah, right? Rick's son?" I blinked. "I'm Jonah, but I'm not his son." She flinched. "Right. Sorry. He always said." She trailed off, then looked down at her hands. "I'm his wife. Jessica." I stared at her. Rick was married? She looked tired, pale. Her lips were chapped. Something about the way she stood made me think she hadn't slept in days. She took a breath. "I know this is weird. I'm not here to cause problems. He doesn't know I came. I had to see her. Lily. Just once." My gut twisted. "She's asleep," I said slowly. "And I don't think this is the time or place for surprises." Jessica nodded quickly, eyes darting again. No, I get it. Please. Jonah. I needed to talk to someone who gets it. Who knows what he's really like." She paused. He told me you were some selfish half-brother trying to cut him out of his daughter's life. But I've been living with him. I see it now. The control. The gaslighting. The anger. Her voice cracked. I have 2 kids. They're not his. And I don't even know if I'm safe anymore. The air outside suddenly felt colder. I opened the door a little more. Come in, I said quietly. But just for a minute. We sat at the kitchen table. I made her tea. She didn't drink it. She just stared at the mug like it might accuse her of something. Then she reached into her coat and pulled out a small thumb drive. I found this on his laptop. He was making videos of Lily from a distance. School parking lot. Outside this building. I think he was planning to make it look like she wanted to come to Arizona. Like she missed him. There's fake text threads, audio edits. It's sick. I didn't speak. I couldn't. I just stared at the drive on my table like it was ticking. Jessica took a long breath. He's unwell, Jonah. Dangerous, even if he hides it under charm and jokes. I didn't believe it at first, either. I thought maybe you were the bad guy. But now I'm scared for her. And then she added, voice barely audible. Don't tell him I came. Please. He wouldn't forgive me. I nodded once. She left without asking to see Lily again. I didn't show the thumb drive to Lily. Not that night. She was wearing matching pajamas, singing along to a playlist, baking gingerbread cookies that came out in ridiculous dinosaur shapes because I bought the wrong cutters. She handed me one and said, this one's you. It's got your dumb long arms. I laughed. A real one. For a second, it all felt normal again. But in my pocket, I held the drive. And in my mind, a new truth started to crystallize. This wasn't just about custody anymore. It was about obsession. And I had no idea what Rick might do next. It was nearly midnight when I finally plugged in the thumb drive. I waited until Lily had gone to bed, headphones on, sketchbook in her lap, totally lost in her own little world. The drive was plain. Just a few folders. One called Lily in all caps. Another labeled Evidence. And a video file titled Statement. I opened the folder marked Lily first. It was worse than I thought. Footage, grainy, long lens clips taken from a car. One of her walking out of school with her backpack slung low. Another from across the street, where she was at the bus stop eating a bag of chips. One more at a park last summer, with friends, laughing. There were timestamps. Names of places. He'd cataloged her like a wildlife documentary. Then the fake texts. Screenshots I knew were fabricated. A conversation thread between Lily and Dad that started with, I miss you so much, and ended with, I want to come visit, but Jonah won't let me. It was all fake. All of it. The photos were doctored. He'd used old pictures of her from Facebook and spliced them into newer settings. Changed backgrounds. Manipulated timestamps. Then I clicked on statement.mp4. Rick was sitting in front of a Christmas tree, holding a mug, wearing the same sweater he showed up to my door in. He looked straight into the camera. To whom it may concern, he began, voice soft. This is my formal statement, recorded on December 22nd, regarding my daughter, Lily Callahan. I am her biological father. I love her more than anything in this world. But I've been alienated, kept away, manipulated. He sighed, like he was the victim. I just want the chance to give her the life she deserves. With her siblings. With me. I believe she still wants that, deep down. She doesn't feel safe saying it. Not around Jonah. I paused the video. My hands were shaking. He wasn't just building a case. He was creating a lie from the ground up. A whole alternate reality where I was the controlling one. Where I was the villain. I emailed the entire contents of the drive to my attorney that night. Then backed it up on a cloud server. Then 2 more. It was clear now. He was preparing for something bigger. Maybe not court. Maybe not even custody. But something. And I wasn't going to wait for it to hit us first. The next morning, I called Lily's school counselor and asked for an urgent meeting. I told her everything. Not the graphic parts. Not the footage. But enough for her to understand. Lily might be in danger again. Emotional, psychological, maybe even physical. I didn't want her pulled into the legal stuff yet. But I needed eyes. Support. Backup. The counselor agreed instantly. She promised to discreetly check in on Lily more often, make notes, flag anything suspicious. Said she'd connect me with a trauma-informed social worker, just in case. That night, Lily caught me stress-eating cereal out of the box on the couch. She plopped next to me, tucked her feet under the blanket, and asked, "Did something happen? You're doing your nervous chew thing." I froze. She noticed. Of course she noticed. I set the box down and lied. Just work. Holiday season. Everyone's sick or drunk. She stared at me, then said, "You know I'm not a kid, right? You can tell me stuff." I looked at her, really looked, and realized how much older she seemed lately. Not just taller or more confident, but aware. Like she'd been quietly watching this whole time, waiting for me to tell her the part of the story she already knew was missing. So I said it. "Your dad showed up again." Her face went still. I kept going, gently. "He wants custody. Visitation. He says he wants you to come to Arizona for the holidays." But I said no. Because it's not safe. Because you're not ready. And because I don't think you want that. She didn't blink. "He left me with that girlfriend once," she said quietly. "The one with the dog that bit people. I didn't eat for 2 days. My throat closed." "I know," I whispered. "I remember." She paused, then added, "I had nightmares for months after Mom died. Not about her dying. About him showing up and taking me." And then, barely audible, "I'm not going with him." "You don't have to. I don't even want to talk to him. I'll protect you. Always." Her shoulders sagged with relief. We sat like that for a long time. No music. No TV. Just the quiet hum of the heater and the way her head eventually leaned onto my shoulder like it used to when she was little. But the calm didn't last long. 2 days later, my lawyer called with news. Rick had filed an emergency custody petition. He claimed I was emotionally manipulating Lily. Said I'd isolated her from her biological parent. Submitted the fake screenshots. Even attached his sick little video statement as proof. The hearing was in 4 days. And worse? The judge was someone Rick's attorney had a history with, an old colleague from a prior case. The kind of connection that wouldn't show up on paper, but made things murky. "We can fight this," my lawyer said. "But we'll need Lily to speak. Or testify. Or at least give a private statement." I stared out the window. Snow was falling again. Lily was in her room, music playing, probably painting that dream forest she told me about. The one where no one could find her. And now, I had to ask her to relive everything she'd buried just to stay safe. Unless I could find something bigger. Something Rick couldn't explain away. I remembered Jessica's face. The fear in her voice. The things she didn't say. I picked up my phone and dialed the number from the envelope she left on the kitchen table. She answered on the first ring. "Jessica," I said. "I need your help." Jessica met me in the parking lot behind a closed-down diner just outside of town. It was snowing hard. The kind of heavy, wet flakes that soak through your jacket if you stood still too long. She sat in her car with the heat running, eyes on the rearview mirror like someone might follow her there. When I slid into the passenger seat, she looked thinner than last time. Tired. She didn't say hello. Just held out a manila envelope and whispered, "Don't ever let him near her." Inside were printed emails. Screenshots. One bank transfer record. And a folded photo. "I used to think he was just difficult," she said. "You know? One of those guys who just never learned how to do family right." But then I started seeing patterns. How he twisted stories. How he talked about Lily like a possession. Like she wasn't a person, just something he lost and wanted back. She glanced over at me. Then I caught him saying something in his sleep. He talks sometimes, late at night. Always when he drinks. "What did he say?" I asked quietly. She swallowed. "He said, I should have just kept her. Back then. That Jonah kid wouldn't have stopped me." My stomach turned. Jessica pulled out a flash drive and passed it to me. "There's an audio file on here. From last month. I hid a recorder in our living room after he started getting paranoid. He was talking to his buddy, some old biker guy. I don't know his real name. But Rick said something about Lily being easy to flip if she spent just a few days in his house. Said he could scare her into thinking you were abusive. That girls her age don't know which memories are real anyway." I clenched my fists so tight my nails left marks in my palms. "He said that." I choked. "Word for word," she whispered. "I memorized it." I stared at her. "Why are you helping me?" She looked away. "Because I stayed with a man like that before. And I didn't help the person he hurt. I was too afraid then. I'm not anymore." I left with the envelope, the flash drive, and a surge of rage I hadn't let myself feel since the day Rick first knocked on our door. The next 48 hours were a blur. My lawyer going through the new evidence, submitting the audio clip, flagging the threatening language, the disturbing strategy. The judge initially rejected the audio file as hearsay until we pointed out that Rick knew he was being recorded. He said so in the clip. "Don't worry, just thinks I'm just venting." She wouldn't dare record me. That mistake alone might have saved us. Lily still didn't know. Not about the hearing. Not about the audio. Not about the sick web Rick tried to spin. But the night before court, she found the manila envelope. I'd left it on my desk, stupid. I know. I thought she was asleep. She knocked on my door holding it. Is this about him? She asked. I sat up, nodded slowly. Yeah. She looked down at the folder, then back up at me. You shouldn't have to do this alone, she said. I want to talk. In court. I want to tell them what he did. I shook my head. You don't have to. I want to, she said firmly. He doesn't get to be the scary voice in the dark anymore. The hearing was held in a sterile family courtroom with tan walls and gray carpeting. It smelled like paperwork and hand sanitizer. Rick was there, wearing a navy blazer over jeans like he thought he was still charming. When he saw Lily walk in with me, he actually smiled, like she was his surprise birthday party. Then she sat next to me and didn't even look his way. He didn't smile again after that. His lawyer made a short opening statement about parental rights and holiday bonding. Mine played the audio file. The judge listened. Then I handed over the printed emails, messages Rick sent to Jessica, bragging about how he could manipulate the system. My lawyer read them aloud. And finally, Lily stood up. She walked to the front of the room in her black jeans and oversized sweater and looked the judge straight in the eyes. I'm not scared of him anymore, she said. But I don't want to live in fear again. I don't want to pretend he's a dad just because he showed up in December. He hurt me. A lot. And Jonah didn't just raise me. He saved me. She took a breath. My real family's right there, she said, pointing to me. That's the only one I want. Rick tried to speak. His voice cracked. But the judge had already made her notes. Her ruling was swift. Petition denied. Restraining order granted. 1 year, renewable. All custody rights suspended pending a psychological evaluation and compliance with court-mandated therapy and family reconciliation protocols, which, as my lawyer said later, were legal code for never gonna happen. When we got home that night, the snow was falling again. Lily went straight to her room. I poured myself a drink, sank into the couch, and just breathed. A few minutes later, she came back out with a new drawing. It was simple. Just a treehouse. 2 people inside, sharing cocoa under a string of lights. Outside the treehouse in pencil was a shadow, a blurry figure, walking away. She handed it to me. It's called What We Kept. I framed it the next day. We didn't talk about Rick again. Not after that night. Not after the court. Not even when Jessica texted to say she'd filed for divorce and gone to a women's shelter in Arizona with her kids. Some doors closed quietly. Some slammed shut so hard they echo. But ours? We just locked it and threw the key away. Christmas came and went. Lily baked too many cookies. I burned the ham. We laughed about it, loud and long, and didn't once check the windows. She gave me a new drawing, me in scrubs, holding a giant mug that said, World's Okayest Parent. I gave her a sketchbook with real linen pages and the words Start Here stamped in gold. Rick never called again. Never knocked. Never sent another letter. And if he ever does, I'll be ready. But for now, our home is quiet. Safe. Exactly what she deserves. Exactly what we fought for. My dad said Christmas was off. But for Lily, it was finally on.